Yo, what's up? So this is another Jump Jet episode where we're going to go through front-end interview questions that you're likely to get. And this one is, what is the difference between HTML and XHTML? So we'll just start off with a definition. HTML is hypertext markup language, and XHTML is extensible hypertext markup language. And the big difference is that X, and that's because XHTML is based upon these rules of a markup language called XML. So there's a lot of acronyms going on there. But to break it down pretty simply, HTML, the language to define the structure of layout on the web, is not very strict. In the past and even today, people might write HTML that doesn't adhere to the standards laid out by, say, the W3C. So while a browser might render the page and it looks fine, it doesn't actually follow all of the rules. It's kind of like the quirks mode versus standards mode that we talked about in another episode. Now with XHTML, it's based upon XML. And XML has a very strict structure. It has certain syntax rules. And if you do not follow those rules, the page isn't valid. Now, you might ask, well, what's the point? Like, if an HTML page gets rendered anyway, why would I even bother writing XHTML? Well, one of the things is that since it's so structured, based upon XML, XHTML means that you can identify problems in the page and the structure of the page. If you're using an IDE or a code editor, you can see syntax highlighting that might point out errors that you have within the code, and it's easy to find errors or bugs within your layout. Whereas HTML, it's much more flexible, so there's a benefit to that and a con to that as well. What else? So another thing, I guess, is that because anyone basically can write a web page, you will find that a lot of web pages don't actually adhere to the rules. So web browsers have a way to read HTML and XML documents. One thing to be careful of is if you do decide to write an XHTML document, you definitely have to follow these rules. You can see up here, this is a SciPoint article. There's a bunch of rules based around XHTML that you have to follow. It's like closing tags, uppercase letters. What else is there? There's like the way that you do the quotes, even the nested blocks and stuff like that. XHTML has to follow these rules. And you also have to define the type of document in the doc type definition at the top of the page. One thing to watch out is if you decide to write HTML and your document is interpreted by the browser as an XML document, but you've made mistakes in your XHTML, the page may not render at all. So I'm of the opinion that unless you have a good reason to write strict XHTML, really for all intents and purposes, you can just write HTML. If you've got a good editor, it's going to highlight any mistakes that you've made, and you're not going to run across as many problems. In an ideal world, everyone would write like very perfect, strict, amazingly structured XHTML documents, but that's actually not the case. So in my opinion, for the most part, HTML is fine. Make sure that you're writing good HTML, run it through a validator, and we should be all good. But that is basically the difference between the two. Feel free to comment if I've made some like egregious mistake. But a long story short, the TLDR is XHTML is XML. It's strict and structured. HTML is not XML. It's a structure, but it doesn't have the same strict rules and definitions that you have to follow. So yeah, if you give an answer something like that, I think that you'll be on a pretty good footing in regards to a technical interview or a front end interview. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. Point out mistakes if you find them. I'd love to hear. And sub, I don't know where that is. It's somewhere down here. If you find this useful, or like it, or share it, whatever. Okay, thanks a lot.